Okay, so today we're going to talk about what PECS is and what it's about and why you should pay attention or why you shouldn't pay attention to it. So, what PECS is, what it stands for is Picture Exchange Communication System. Okay, and the system has been around for quite a long time now. And I would say that for someone to use PECS properly, to learn about PECS, that person should go to a lesson. Okay, as you would know, for a professional to actually you wouldn't know for a professional to get certified with PECS, it takes I don't know like 2,000 USD at the very least to actually get the certificate or to be educated about it. Yeah, so to have someone who knows PECS would be a great asset if they were to teach your child, right? And that's true. But first of all, we need to think about what PECS is about. So PECS is a part of a whole umbrella term for what we call AAC, right? If you guys know about it, which is alternative augmentative communication, meaning anything that doesn't use speech as a way to communicate is AAC. Okay, so if you remember the late Stephen Hawking, he would use his eye tracking thing to type out alphabets and write books that are volumes and volumes long. I'm not sure anyone has ever finished those books. That is called an AAC too. Okay, so why does your child need AAC or in particular PECS? So children who are on the spectrum are pretty much quite often being recommended to use PECS. And the reason for that is because it's a structured thing. It's a structured activity system that helps the child acquire some what we call pre-linguistic skills. All right. So pre-linguistic skills, you don't need to be too scared about what it is or like it sounds too crazy. It's just basically some stuff that you need to know before you start talking. And we talked about this last week as well a little bit, but I feel like a lot of you guys are asking, oh, does AAC, PECS, or does like an iPad, like I don't know, like a communication device will help a child start talking or not? And the answer is it depends, right? So if you're using a PECS or an AAC, I would say your child needs to be a little bit older. So what is older? So at least 4 to 5. Why? Because when you're 2 to 3 or you're 3 to 4, you're still trying our best to teach speech as much as possible, right? Are there times that we're going to do PECS at like 3 years old plus? Yeah, of course, really, we do. Don't get me wrong. And that is up to the discretion of your speech therapist or your ABA therapist or your your developmental psychologist, whatever, okay? A professional will tell you, this kid needs PECS, right? So are there cases that PECS will harm your child in any way? I don't really think so, okay? PECS is a way of using pictures to communicate, obviously, but the whole crust, the thing about PECS itself is that it teaches a child how to initiate a communication, as we were talking about last week, right? So what is this like initiating part? Is it important? Is it anything? Yes, it's very important. First of all, it's super important. And does it warrant you to learn PECS and learn everything and print everything out and laminate it and put it in a book and then buy a book or whatever, buy Velcro and all that stuff? Well, yeah, I think so. In the beginning, why we're using PECS is for children who don't really have motivation to talk to you, right? So we want to use PECS to teach them, to initiate, to communicate with you. I'm sorry if you can see me, I'm looking here and looking here. That's because this is IG and this is YouTube and Facebook. But anyways, so why do you want your child to learn how to initiate communication? Well, first of all, your child is already initiating communication with you. He's already trying to talk to you in some way or another, right? So one of the ways that children talk to you might be unconventional ways. What is a conventional way is that they talk, I don't know, they signal you, they use a gesture, so on, right? But some children, when they want to talk to you, they use ways that are not really socially acceptable, such as screaming, shouting, crying, whatever, kicking you, biting you, using the head to headbutt you. Like when I was, my first ever student would headbutt me in my stomach just to get my attention, right? And obviously, the ABA way is to ignore any attention-seeking behavior. So at the end of the day, when I was younger, I didn't know better, and I just kept on getting headbutt on the stomach for no particular reason. But I digress. I was talking about how to initiate communication. So if they already know, then why teach them? And that's because we need to give them a very predictable way for the child to talk to you, to start a conversation with you, right? So that's why PECS is great. PECS is great is because now there's a structured way that a child can start a conversation with you, telling you exactly what they want. So if you're dealing with children who are nonverbal and have a lot of tantrums when they can't get their message across, then PECS is a good one. But the thing about PECS here is that a lot of people, a lot of therapists actually, and a lot of teachers, they put the emphasis of PECS inside of how many cards, how many specific messages they can send with cards, right? There's a lot of, I want to pee, I want whatever, and then you make sentences like I want and then underscore something, or give me whatever, or I eat whatever, like these kind of what we call carrier phrases that they use to build sentences in PECS, so that it justifies. I feel like what's happening is that, especially in Asia, because PECS is something that Asian parents do not want, because it means that you're giving up on speech. It's besides the point. It's not about that. But sometimes when we're trying to compensate, especially younger therapists who feel like, oh no, I don't know if this will, actually as a parent you wouldn't know, but as someone who has been in the field and looking at other therapists, I will see that they are trying to compensate for thinking, oh no, I've done it. I've jumped on PECS, and I want to make sure that I can show the mom that this works. Therefore, I'm going to do a lot of sentences or whatever. But the real point of PECS is that they can initiate correctly with you, meaning they can take up the card, shove it into your hand, even if you're not looking, you're not trying to tempt them, you're not doing anything to get your attention. That's the good way to get your attention, not by, I don't know, screaming, shouting, or whatever. A lot of times when I see a PECS session is that the person is, maybe the caregiver is trying very hard to get their attention, and take up the, I don't know what people use for PECS, right? Maybe it's the phone, maybe it's snack or whatever, but then they do a lot of stuff. They ask the kid to look over here, and all that stuff. But that's besides the point. The main goal of PECS, the main goal is that you're teaching them a different way to communicate. So the whole stage 1 of PECS, all right, and a huge disclaimer here, I haven't been on a PECS workshop just yet, okay? As pandemic hit, I was supposed to go to Singapore to relearn a little bit of that. I was supervised by someone who has, I don't know, PECS level, whatever, I don't know, stage, whatever, but I was mentored directly by that person, and she was very strict about it. That's why I had to remember the whole book. So, I don't want to think about it. It was very tough on me, but if she hadn't had done so, I wouldn't been able to speak to you right now about PECS. Okay, so grateful for her. So what happened was, what happens in stage 1 is that you want the child to take the card on the table and shove it into your hand. Okay, why do you want that? So basically, when the child can do that, it means that they understand by giving you the card to get what they want, not by any other means. Therefore, when they have this means to use it, right, to use that, so some children will imitate whatever you say, whatever you do to get what they want. That's the means to the end. Where in PECS, you're teaching them to use picture exchanging as a means to an end, right? So when they learn that there's a means to an end to the PECS, then the next stage is to use that structure, that means to an end, to teach more content. This is where you teach them a pre-linguistic skill, what we call matching, right? Or being able to identify a difference in different pictures. So Usually when they can take the emphasis should be 100% on them being automatic, taking the card and giving it to you to get something they want. Even if you're not looking, you're not enticing them with snacks or like floundering with your phone or whatever. You don't want that. You want them to, from their heart, suddenly out of nowhere, they just want to and just give it to you. Then you know you can move on to stage 2. Many people just think that, as long as I tempt them and then they give me a card, then we're done with stage 1. Not really. You want them to, just suddenly think about that reward and just give it to you and get what they want. And this is very important. This needs to happen at home. It cannot happen at the clinic, because at the clinic, they're already conditioned to think, I'm gonna do this. I'm here to give cards. I'm here to get rewards and so on. And therefore, it's easy for the child to perform. But what you need to do if you really do PECS is that you need him or her, probably him most of the time, and you want them to go to that place with the card and give it to you. Okay, and then you can talk about teaching more words and so on and so forth. Okay, so why do you need it, or why do you need it, and so on. Well, we talked about why. We talked about how to do it, kind of. Obviously, you still need a professional to help you out along the way, right? So if you already know what PECS is, then you're already down a rabbit hole. Okay, and obviously this kind of topic wouldn't get a lot of people, but on Agents of Speech, we talk about stuff that are helping those parents, especially those mothers who want to learn more. So if you're here, then great, hallelujah. Anyways, so does your child need it or not? There are lots of arguments about PECS. There are people saying that and showing me real evidence that I've seen with my real eyes in Hong Kong, right? There's a huge advocate for PECS who works with children on the spectrum, and they would start off using PECS to teach these pre-linguistic skills and then move on to speech. And it works. It does work. I've seen it. And that's why I would say 9 times out of 10, if you know what you're doing, does a therapist know what you're doing? And if the therapist says that for this child, it's fair to use PECS as a way to teach them something, to communicate in the beginning stages, then go for it. Go for it, right? Even if they're around 3. Would I say that your child would need it at around 2 to 3? No. Start PECS after 3. There's reasons for it, okay? Just because it's more manageable, all right? And the attention span is a little longer, and you can make them sit for a little longer, and they want stuff from you for a little longer, okay? So how about if the whole reason why this sparked this conversation is because last week someone asked me about whether a 2-year-old would benefit from AAC, like using an iPad app or whatever, like teach me to talk for me or whatever, a pro low to go or something. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, then you don't know, right? So I was saying, no, if your child is below 3, I would say that you need to try all we can to see if we can get them to imitate sounds, to get them to imitate actions, sounds, see what their repertoire is, see what sounds they have already, what sounds they can have, all right? If it's a problem about like a speech, then, we need to focus on getting more sounds. If it's a problem with language, then we need to focus on teaching them more things, okay? And last week we were talking about matching as a therapy thing. Now, I've seen it many times because in ABA back then, I did a lot of matching with a lot of children. I'm talking about I was a master of matching. I'm not even joking. I was telling you guys, right, back in the day when I was in ABA, all my female colleagues would get sick, right, and I would shoulder most of the cases. I don't know why. There were other people available, whatever. It was a chance for me to learn. But the thing about like matching is that how do you generalize it towards real speech, right? And why would you want to use it in the long run? It doesn't really help much other than if you're building towards PECS and you're building compliance, that's all. So would I say that you guys need PECS? No, not really. Before 3, don't even think about it. If your child is not on the spectrum, is not NOT, not on the spectrum, then PECS will be only reserved for children who are deemed nonverbal. And we've talked about this before. Nonverbal, there's a lot of meanings. I mean, a lot of definitions. That's what I mean for nonverbal. Okay, but there is a place where we call them pre-verbal, and then nonverbal. Pre-verbal, that means like we're thinking, oh, they're yet to speak. We don't know if they will speak yet. And then nonverbal is where we deem them kind of difficult to use speech sounds as a mode to communicate, not saying that they cannot communicate, right? So where do I draw the line? It's difficult. It's hard. It's a decision with the parent and me and maybe another professional that has been working with them or something. And we talk about, okay, what do you like? What are the parents' concerns? Are you okay with using AAC as a middle step, right? This conversation should always be here. If you go to a therapy center, they don't talk to you about it, and then they suddenly just force PECS on you, then obviously there's something wrong with their I don't know. There's something wrong. You gotta have a conversation, a professional one, about, are we doing this? Do you want to do this? Is this something you want to do? Are you on board? Because if you're on board, you need to help me out, right? So there's a lot of these things you gotta talk about first before you jump in. Okay, so we see a question here on Instagram. Obviously, you can't see. So it's Sasi Tharan. Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. Says, is babbling, right? So babbling considered pre-verbal? Yes, babbling is considered pre-verbal. Pre-verbal is more like I would say pre-verbal is, I would personally, right? I don't know. There's definitions are changing every day, So, and even definitions of autism, definition of ADHD, definitions of intellectual disorder, they're all changing all the time. But pre-verbal, I think, okay, don't take my word for it. Although, I don't want to have you guys go out and say, this speech therapist Ming said this is not pre-verbal, whatever. It's different everywhere. First of all, I want to get this out there. Okay, it's different everywhere. Whether you're in, you're in Korea, Japan, USA, UK, they all have kind of different ways of defining anything. So pre-verbal is, I would say, is any child between like 3.5 or below, and you can physically see that they still have a full set of developed skills that are developmentally normal, meaning they're step by step, right? They're still hitting some foundations. They're not missing a bunch of stuff, and you would think that they're just delayed in terms of language. That's why they haven't been able to say anything yet, right? That's pre-verbal. Whereas nonverbal usually means that a child is physically incapable of making sound, physically incapable of creating coherent, understandable speech sounds. That's nonverbal. That's why I said non, because they're not able to, right? Whereas pre is like, you can see that it's coming. There are a set of skills. They can babble, they can say certain sounds, certain words, but they haven't linked the word to meanings. Therefore, that's why they're pre-verbal. They're not yet verbal. Okay, so maybe that will help you a little bit. So I would say that we don't use, sorry, I'm going to close that. We don't use PECS for pre-verbal children, for sure. Okay, but in cases where if it's what we call a ASD, autism spectrum disorder, then we will consider it for reasons that it's a pragmatic thing. It's more of a, what's that called? It's more of a social interaction thing that I don't know how to use it. So someone asked on Instagram, right? They say, can we see the example of PECS and how to use it? Well, we're not here to talk about how to use it. I mean, as I said, if we want to learn how to use it, then try to do it. Try to get a professional to do it with you, number one. An example of PECS is, I don't have one around here, okay? It's downstairs, and I don't want to go down right now. I'm sorry about that. But what I mean is, I don't know your situation. Sometimes I tell parents something, and they feel like they got to do it after I say it. And it's very easy to link and think, that's for my child, and you try to do it. But what I mean is, Juliana, right, is that, hey man, you gotta tell me more about your kid. You gotta you got to do more research, whether you want it or not. You got to ask more professionals. You got to ask around, ask other parents, ask other moms about whether this is for your child or not. There's no use in studying something that is not helpful for a child. Okay, I've seen it many times that moms will take courses about what? Take courses about many different things, like oral massage when the child can speak already. They take courses about, I don't know, sensory integration when the child is obviously doesn't have any sensory issues. So I see this all the time. So I know that you want the best for a kid, but my best advice is that you go to, if you're on Facebook, then great. You can go to our Facebook group, inside our Facebook group, and ask there, okay? And describe your child, ask other moms, and search inside for a lot of different things. Or you could just join our agentsofspeech.com/micro, the micro course, right? And there are loads of things that we'll go through for you. Like we go through a lot of FAQ, basically, frequently asked questions in semi-detail, so that I can get you on the right mindset and we can move forward from there and you can ask better questions, right? So I'm sorry, I don't have an example of PECS. I don't want to show you anything. I just want to tell you, if this whole live is for that, if someone asks you about, the therapist say, I want to do PECS, at least you have a little idea what it's about on a conceptual level. Is that it's to teach a child to learn how to actually start a conversation with you using pictures. And then when they have that, they can use it to learn new words, new sounds, new content, new pictures, and identify the speech sound into the ear to choose the correct one and give it to you, right? And that's working on a bunch of things. They're working on matching, working on word identification, learning how to slowly moving from pictures to drawing, learning about abstractness and so on. And these are all things that PECS will help your child with. Okay, maybe even sentence building at the end of the day. Okay, so that's probably it for tonight, guys. I just wanted to get this out of the way. And I'll be open to some questions. All right, so for IG, I don't really know how to scroll back up, guys. Oh, I see it now. Let me check. No one asked questions, right? Okay, if you need, then just tell me. All right, just put it here. And I see that on Facebook, someone has put a question, and it's from Koyen. Yay, okay. During preverbal stage, 33 months, will children tend to sound a single word, but it's not repeatedly or consistently? How could the parent help him to repeat? Is more snack practice session or the only way? Observe the kid to be in good mood once wake up, good sleep, tends to self-babble, even midnight. Okay, so Kuyen talks about snack practices from the micro course. If you don't know, then join it and take a look. No, it's not the only way, Kuyen, but a lot of times why I in particular, because I know you guys very well, is because a lot of techniques take a lot of patience and you will not see any results. Okay, the snack one is the fastest. I want you to give you a quick win so that you feel like, I can do this, let me continue. All right, and there are times where, like you, Koyen, that sometimes it doesn't work that fast. Okay, for example, last time, if you've seen the first ever parent who I showed to the outside world that I've been working on with, she could only get to imitation in 4 months, right? So there are other ways to babble. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So first of all, one of the ones that we talk about a lot, we as in therapists, not in agents of speech, because we don't really teach that. So one of them is called sound play, right? Sound play. What sound play is basically you play with toys that have some sort of, like for instance, like an ambulance that sounds, right? When you do sound play, you go beep, boo, beep, boo, and you keep on doing it even if your child doesn't repeat. The thing is, Goyen, you're always thinking about how you can help him talk. That's the problem here. there's some, I don't know, whenever a parent wants the child to repeat a talk, there is a sort of feeling that a child gets, and he's going to be like, I know you want me to repeat. I know what you are trying to do. I don't get why I should do it. You get that kind of feeling. And that's when parents will say, oh, they're too lazy. They don't know. They don't understand it. Only when they're good mood, bad mood, they don't want to, right? But you're not supposed to try to make them repeat. You're only supposed to make them repeat if you have something of value in your hands. That's hence the snack practice session, right? So you can do a lot more sound play with him. But when you're doing sound play, you're creating sounds that are about of his level. So in Babel, there are two levels, right? One is just mono babbling, which is ba 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 ma 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 ba 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 da ba 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 like that. Okay. And then there's reduplicated babbling. I'm throwing jargons at you, but what it means is just it goes ba bi ba boo or mam boo or whatever, or bee boo. This kind of like, you get what I mean? Reduplicating, meaning it will duplicate itself in a different pattern. It might be ma ba bi or something. So there are two stages, most probably. Actually, there are loads of stages if you really want to dig into it. But I don't even remember myself. Okay, so why, if you want him to repeat and be consistently, then you have to do it yourself. You have to be the person who is creating those sounds and making it fun, and we call that sound play. All right. Yeah, if you're doing it, then keep on doing it. There's not much I can say to you, Koyan, sometimes, and that's because you need to have patience. This stuff doesn't just magically work. I mean, if you bring him to a speech therapist, it might magically work, and that's because people have got like years of experience just handling children. So you have to be patient about your own what's that called? Your own ability. Okay. Sometimes it's not the child. You have to be patient. Alrighty. So Mohuden, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong again. Start babbling suddenly and continue the whole day. H3. Is it certain development? Yeah. I mean, if he starts babbling and he keeps on doing it, then obviously it's verbal development, right? All right. Hey, Wai Bing, hello. I was the one who asked AAC last week. Yes, you did. There's a bunch more, actually. You sparked a conversation. So should I be concerned about my child's ABA therapist because they insisted to use AAC instead of gesture? They said it's too difficult to teach my 2.5-year-old gesture because it requires strong motor skill and there are any types of sign language or ASL. Yeah, no one tells. I mean, like, I don't want to say that your therapist is wrong, but there's a but, right? Obviously, because whenever you're teaching like a gesture, it doesn't need to be 100% correct. It doesn't need to be spot on, right? And you think about AAC. Hey, what kind of AAC are they talking about? Like, are they talking about PECS? Or are they talking about iPad? Anyone who is telling a 2.5-year-old kid to press buttons on the iPad to tell you what they want, I don't know, man. It doesn't sound natural to me. It doesn't sound whatever. And I've seen your kid, if your child is on the spectrum and they have a plan, for instance, they have a plan to tell you to use PECS to teach certain sounds or words, then I think fair enough, go for it, right? But at the same time, if I don't get it. So how hard is it to teach a very gross motor gesture? Okay. I mean, Wiping, you've seen it as well, right? We were inside of the membership that we have. By the way, closed, guys, not open. Okay. Remember that if you were on one of the calls, which I remember that you were. Okay, there was a kid who obviously had motor issues and couldn't do the open gesture correctly, right? So he would go like that. Even that's acceptable, because the mom understands it, right? Doesn't matter. Gestures are great. Gestures are cool because later on you can use it for other things, such as cueing speech in a very naturalistic way. Okay, so I would say what requires more motor skills, right? Pressing buttons every time, holding a big iPad, does that require a big, strong motor? I think so. I would never do it for a 2-year-old Okay, even if they were on the spectrum, I would only start at 3 for obvious reasons, for their reasons actually. But like if they do have a plan, then let them go for it. And that's it probably. I don't know what to say. Sometimes I feel like ABA is a hit or a miss. I started off as an ABA therapist too, but I moved on from it, and at the same time I still use the practices I used back then to a large extent. But at the same time, you cannot I don't know what to say. I don't want to sound like I'm discouraging people from going to ABA, because it's great. It really is a good thing. A lot of one of my students who are in the teenage years, they are, or one in their adult years, would say ABA is great. It helped me a lot to understand, gave me a lot of direct and straightforward, to the point, and structured environment for me to learn and grow. But at the same time, there are many stories about ABA, so on and so forth, and we've done a live about this, videos about this before as well, right? So don't worry, you can go back and take a look. So Wybing, for me to give you an answer here, is that I would always try gestures, okay? But the thing about PECS or AAC is that you need to be on board with the therapist. If they're doing it, you need to do it at home and use it at home, or else your child's not going to benefit from it. So there's no way in, unless you change therapists, right? But there's no way in trying to go against what they're telling you. So what I'm telling you here is that either be 100% on board or don't be on board, okay? And you say yes, 100%, or hell no, okay? So that's up to you. That's not up to anyone to decide. That's not up to me to decide either. And we're not even going to go into many types of sign languages. And remember what I said just now. AAC, gestures, all of these, what we're doing is teaching pre-linguistic skills, right? Teaching him or her how to use a different way to initiate communication. I don't care if the sign language is wrong. They're thinking about many types of sign languages. Remember when I said PECS, many focus on the number of tiles on the freaking iPad. That's not even the point. That you're not supposed to care about how many pictures, how many words you're teaching through an AAC. That's not the point. The point is to teach the child how to communicate with you. I don't care how many, like if there's one picture, I think it's fine. If there's one picture in text, I think it's fine. If gestures, you only have 2 to 3, that's fine. Don't focus on the quantity, focus on the quality. Remember, Wybing, when we were having our coaching call session, right? When your child stopped and hold up her hand, she was waiting, we taught her something. We taught her to wait and be patient and to use a gesture, open palm, to get what she wants. Once she knew that, she would stop and she would listen to you, and you can teach more stuff. So your starting point at home should be like that. And if the therapists are teaching in the beginning, if you see, okay, I'll tell you how to see if someone knows how to use the AAC or not. If you open their app or the PECS, and it's a 2.5-year-old child who doesn't know how to talk and doesn't know how to use the AAC, if you open it and you see that there's like 5 or 6 different pictures, or maybe a whole page of tiles, then get the hell out. You get out. How is anyone gonna use an AAC with so many buttons on it, and you're trying to teach them how to use the system? Is that crazy or not? Right? That's why, especially to Kuyen, right? That's why I tell you guys, when you're starting to teach gestures, teach only one gesture at one time, because you're not teaching that gesture. You're teaching the concept of using the gesture, right? You're not teaching them, oh, I have this one, I have this one, I have that one, I have so many. Oh, they can't do the fine motor. Oh no, then we should skip to like using AAC. That's not the point. You need to teach the concept of communication. All right. Cool. All right. So I've stopped rambling. Maybe the last 4 minutes was the most valuable part of the whole live. But thanks, Wybing, for sparking this conversation. All right. This is what we need to do. All right. Remember. Yeah. Take a look, Wybing. See if they know what they're doing. All right. So for everyone here, everyone who's watching, for people who haven't used, or for children who haven't used a single word yet, remember, you need to teach their concept of how to communicate, not the words, not how many gestures, not how many pictures they can take, not how many they can press, not how many they can identify. Okay, I'm sure that that a lot of children who are on the spectrum will be able to sing songs, recite movies, whatever. okay, recite nursery rhymes, all that kind of jazz. And at the end of the day, it's not about that. They have the content, they don't know how to link it and use it with you. That's the problem. That's what we're solving with PECS and gestures and whatnot. Okay, so that's all for tonight. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I am on Instagram and also YouTube and Facebook at the very same time. That's why I'm looking 2 ways. But anyways, that's all. Thanks and have a good night.